Okay, tonight is Alma chapter 51.
And now it came to pass in the commencement of the 25th year of the reign of the judges over the people of Nephi, they having established peace between the people of Lehi and the people of Morianton concerning their lands, and having commenced the 25th year in peace, nevertheless they did not long maintain an entire peace in the land. For there began to be a contention among the people concerning the chief judge Pahoran. For behold, there were a part of the people who desired that a few particular points of the law should be altered. But behold, Pahoran would not alter, nor suffer the law to be altered. Therefore he did not hearken to those who had sent in their voices with their petitions concerning the altering of the law. Therefore those who were desirous that the law should be altered were angry with him, and desired that he should no longer be chief judge over the land. Therefore there arose a warm dispute concerning the matter, but not unto bloodshed.
It starts out in the 25th year, and it says that there was peace established between the people of Lehi and the people of Morianton. You may remember from the previous chapter, chapter 50, there was a dispute between those groups over land, over property, right? And maybe they're saying, well, our land ends here, no, it should end there, and so they were kind of disputing and arguing over a piece of land, and so they wound up getting into a skirmish over it, and so there was some fighting involved. Morianton was killed in the previous chapter, right? Because he was kind of the instigator of the disagreement, okay? And so it says he was killed, and so now they're still calling the people of Morianton because they were living in a place called Morianton, as you said. And so now there's peace established between these groups. And right, but now it says in the second verse, it didn't last long, okay? Because it's always something new to be unhappy about, apparently, right? Some people got together and said we need to change some laws, right? Now it doesn't say here what those laws were, so I guess we can't really judge whether it was a good idea or a bad idea for whatever they were putting forth. But I guess the process was that they would get a petition, and they would sign a bunch of names, and then they would submit it to the chief judge, to the governor, if you will, and who right now was Pahoran. Now, again, you may or may not remember at the end of the previous chapter, he was just appointed to this position. He's new to the job, right? Because before that, it was a man named Nephihah who had died, right? He died of old age, I guess, or whatever. So Pahoran was his son, and he took over the job. So he's new to the job. So now they're figuring they're going to take advantage of the new guy here, right? So let's get a bunch of laws changed, right? We'll sign a petition, and we'll convince him that we need to do this, right? But apparently he wasn't that easily convinced, because now he's sticking to the rules and said, no, I don't think these laws should be changed, so I'm not gonna change them, right? So in spite of the petitions that were put in, and we don't know how many names we're talking about, whether it was 10 or 100 or 1,000, but there was some number of names on the petition, and so but he said, no, I'm not going to change the law here. And so as a result, now, as it says in verse 4, it says there was those who were now angry with him and said, well, we need to get him out of there, get him out of that job, because we're not happy with the job he's doing now, because he won't entertain our request for changing the law. As it says, there arose a warm dispute over the matter, right? Not a hot dispute, but a warm dispute, right? So, but not unto bloodshed. They were just angry, right? They weren't saying let's kill him. They weren't saying let's have war, but we're not happy with him, and we'd like to try to figure out how to get him out of that job.
And it came to pass that those who were desirous that Pahoran should be dethroned from the judgment seat were called kingmen, for they were desirous that the law should be altered in a manner to overthrow the free government and to establish a king over the land. And those who were desirous that Pahoran should remain chief judge over the land took upon them the name of freemen. And thus was the division among them. For the freemen had sworn or covenanted to maintain their rights and the privileges of their religion by a free government. And it came to pass that this matter of their contention was settled by the voice of the people. And it came to pass that the voice of the people came in favor of the freemen, and Pahoran retained the judgment seat, which caused much rejoicing among the brethren of Pahoran, and also many of the people of liberty, who also put the kingmen to silence, that they durst not oppose, but were obliged to maintain the cause of freedom. Now those who were in favor of kings were those of high birth, and they sought to be kings, and they were supported by those who sought power and authority over the people.
So now there was this agreement, and they're saying we want this guy out of this position, right? So they decided, well, we got to do something here. So this is let's just overthrow the whole system, right? We've been doing it for 25 years, and now in our opinion it's not working out. So we need to go back to having a king like we had before that, right? Because before this 25-year period, they had kings. Mosiah was the last king, right? Right, he was the last king, and if you remember, his sons none of them wanted to be kings, so instead they designed this whole different system of the government with the judges, right? So now here they're thinking after 25 years, well, this isn't working out. We want to go back to the old way. So they set up something where they're going to have a vote, and those who were in favor of going back to a king, so they just gave him the nickname of King Men, right? Just nothing official. Just I guess that's what they were called, right? And those who wanted to keep it the way it is now, the free men, right? They were, in other words, in favor of keeping things free instead of going back to a king. So those were the two opposing views for this particular election, the kingmen and the freemen, right? So as you can see right there, it says that they pushed that there would be a vote, okay, because there was a division and so forth. And so now it says that the contention was settled by the voice of the people. Just another name for a vote, right? The voice of the people. So in other words, everybody gets a chance to say yes or no, or kingmen or freemen, whatever, and then they count them up, and whatever is the majority, that's the voice of the people. So in other words, the people have spoken. That's the way we would say it today. So right, they had a vote or an election, and then they counted it up, and so then it was decided which way they were going to go. So I mean, so they did take that seriously, that they went ahead and had a vote. So they decided to keep things the way it was. So the freemen won, if you will, and so that Pahoran retained the judgment seat, and really the whole system was kept in place. Like it wasn't even to, I'll say, take him out of the position, but still keep the system. They were just going to throw out the whole system, in which case there wouldn't have been a chief judge position anymore for him to be in. But the voice of the people, the vote went in favor of keeping it the way it was. So Pahoran retained the judgment seat, right? And so as you can see in 7, it says they were rejoicing and happy and excited. You know, you picture election night, you know, and they're, you know, I'm sure they were all excited about winning the election, all right? And so now they said, all right, let's knock off this king stuff now, right? Now that the voice of the people has spoken, we don't want to really hear any more about this king stuff. And now in verse 8, it throws in an interesting little point there, right? It says a little comment on those who were the kingmen, or those who were in favor of going to kings. It says that many of them were of what was called high birth. In other words, that if we're going to go back to a king, one of us is probably going to be the king. So that there was, it wasn't just totally a political thing or just totally an opinion thing. It was, hey, I could get something out of it. I could be king of the whole land here. So yeah, let's go to kings, and let's look to the wealthy families to pick a king, all right? Which happens to be my family, right? So that's what it was saying. It's that they sought power and authority over the people, so that was part of their motivation also.
But behold, this was a critical time for such contentions to be among the people of Nephi. For behold, Amalickiah had again stirred up the hearts of the people of the Lamanites against the people of the Nephites, and he was gathering together soldiers from all parts of his land, and arming them, and preparing for war with all diligence, for he has sworn to drink the blood of Moroni. But behold, we shall see that his promise which he made was rash. Nevertheless he did prepare himself and his armies to come to battle against the Nephites. Now his armies were not so great as they had hitherto been, because of the many thousands who had been slain by the hand of the Nephites. But notwithstanding their great loss, Amalickiah had gathered together a wonderfully great army, insomuch that he feared not to come down to the land of Zarahemla. Yea, even Amalickiah did himself come down at the head of the Lamanites, and it was in the 25th year of the reign of the judges, and it was at the same time that they had begun to settle the affairs of their contentions concerning the chief judge Pahoran.
Having told a little story here of the kingmen versus the freemen, right? Now it says in 9, it says this was a critical time, or really, I might reword it, this was a bad time for this kind of thing to happen, right? For such contentions to be among the people of Nephi, because now it says that Amalickiah and the Lamanites were about to attack the Nephites. Right now, I might comment just in general. You see, the Nephites were supposed to be one people, all right, and then together on whatever had to be done. So it's this kingmen versus freemen thing was a dividing thing among the people of Nephi, among the Nephites. So when the real enemy comes and you're divided, well now your whole system is weakened, your whole nation or your whole group of people is weakened because you have arguments or divisions amongst yourself. So it's a matter of recognizing who's the real enemies. They weren't supposed to be each other's enemy. They were supposed to be together, and the real enemy was still coming to attack them. So arguing amongst themselves that the time the enemy was going to come attack them was not a good thing. So they were not in a position to really properly defend themselves right away because they were too busy bickering over whether they wanted a king or a judge or whatever. Okay, so that's why I said it wasn't a good time for this to happen, because now Amalickiah was on his way with the soldiers and the army and so forth. And now, of course, we've been following the efforts of Amalickiah over the past several chapters, all right? That he's, the one that he used his own strategy and subtlety to become king, and he killed the king of the Lamanites and wound up marrying the queen and took over the country and so forth. And so now he wants to take over the Nephite people as well. So he has sent an army in the last chapter to attack them. And if you remember, they came and they found all the cities were well protected, and so that they didn't want to attack. Right? Because they said, this is silly. We're not gonna win. But he even commented and said if Amalickiah had been with them, he would have sent them into the battle anyway, because he didn't care if they died. He just wanted to try to win the war. So now, as you see here, now he's coming with them, right? That's why it makes the comment in 12. It says, "Yea, even Amalickiah did himself come down at the head of the Lamanites." Right? He wasn't sending them out without him this time, because he sent them last time, but they still wound up losing a lot of people, and then they didn't get anywhere, right? Because as it said in 11, the armies were not so great as they once were, because a lot of people have been killed. So, it's not like you could, in a few months, redevelop a whole army. I mean, a whole big section of their population have been killed. A lot of their men have been killed, so their army was a lot smaller and not as strong now. But that didn't matter, because we're still going after it. We're still going to try to go kill the Nephites, right? So that's really what it's saying in these, that Amalickiah, he was like a crazy guy, right? That's why, because he made an oath he was going to drink the blood of Moroni. That's how vicious he was, right? In other words, he's trying to say that, we're going to kill him, we're going to drink his blood. That's how bad I want to kill him. So he had made this a public vow or promise to do this. So that's why it's even commented here. But he says we'll see this promise, but it was rash, because it's not going to happen. So.
And it came to pass that when the men who were called king men had heard that the Lamanites were coming down to battle against them, they were glad in their hearts, and they refused to take up arms, for they were so wroth with the chief judge and also with the people of liberty that they would not take up arms to defend their country. And it came to pass that when Moroni saw this, and also saw that the Lamanites were coming into the borders of the land, he was exceeding wroth because of the stubbornness of those people whom he had labored with so much diligence to preserve. Yea, he was exceeding wroth. His soul was filled with anger against them. And it came to pass that he sent a petition with the voice of the people unto the governor of the land, desiring that he should read it and give him, Moroni, power to compel those dissenters to defend their country or to put them to death. For it was his first care to put an end to such contentions and dissensions among the people. For behold, this had been hitherto a cause of all their destruction. And it came to pass that it was granted according to the voice of the people.
This is kind of what I was just talking about, right? That if you see in 13, right, it says those who were called the king men, right? They were still kind of smarting from their defeat in this election, right? So now the next thing they hear, now I don't know how shortly after that happened, might have been like right after that, right? That here comes the enemy to attack the Lamanites. They're saying, good, we're glad the enemy's coming, and we're not going to help you, all right? We're not going to help you fight, all right? We're fine. You want the system? Okay, you fight the Lamanites. We'll just sit back and watch, right? So they weren't going to help because they were unhappy with how it turned out. So they were being a sore loser, basically, right? And they didn't want to help. So it says they were angry with the chief judge, we're angry with the people, and we are not going to help fight, right? So that was their initial reaction. So now Moroni, who's the leader of the army here, it says in 14, it says, when he saw this, how stubborn they were, it says he was exceeding wroth, and in other words, very, very angry, right, at them, because rightly so. It's like, well, with the real enemy is coming, and you're going to sit back because you didn't get your way. You're not going to help us, so you're going to stand by and watch our people get killed just because you didn't win the vote, right? So he was very, very angry with them. So it says we got to do something about this. We got to get these people to do what they're supposed to do. So in 15 it says he approached the governor of the land, right, and said basically we need a way to force them to fight with us. Right? And at the end of 15 it says we need power to compel those dissenters to defend their country or to put them to death. Right? So that's what we need to be able to do, is to really insist that they fight with us. right? And even carrying with it a death penalty if they refuse, right? If you're drafted, if you're of the age to fight, you need to fight with us. You need to stand with us, right? Or else we can't really, because otherwise it's not going to work, right? We're a divided nation right now, and so we're not going to get anywhere. We're all going to get killed. We're going to get taken over by the enemy, and just because you're unhappy you lost the election is not a good reason to not fight with us, right? So he asked for that, and as in 16 it says his first care was to put an end to this kind of stuff among the people, all right? Because it says it had been a cause of all their destruction in the past, being divided, right? And so but there was a voice of the people. I guess there was a vote to say yes or no on this, and so it said yes, let's do it that way, right? So basically anybody who refuses to fight, they have the option of putting them to death, all right? So they can say either fight with us or we'll kill you. They were basically putting it at the level of what we might call treason today, right? Somebody who goes against the government or against the country is guilty of treason, and that does carry a high penalty. So we're putting that in place here.
And it came to pass that Moroni commanded that his armies should go against those king men, to pull down their pride and their nobility, and level them with the earth, where they should take up arms and support the cause of liberty. And it came to pass that the armies did march forth against them, and they did pull down their pride and their nobility, insomuch that as they did lift their weapons of war to fight against the men of Moroni, they were hewn down and leveled to the earth. And it came to pass that there were 4,000 of those dissenters who were hewn down by the sword, and those of their leaders who were not slain in battle were taken and cast into prison, for there was no time for their trials at this period. And the remainder of those dissenters, rather than be smitten down to the earth by the sword, yielded to the standard of liberty, and were compelled to hoist the title of liberty upon their towers and in their cities, and to take up arms in defense of their country.
Upon receiving this authority to kind of enforce that everybody needs to fight with us, all right? So I guess the kingmen were not so easily persuaded by a voice of the people, so they had their own little army going here. So well, before we can even worry about the real enemy, we need to settle this amongst ourselves. So that's why it says in 17, it says Moroni commanded his army to go against the kingmen. So let's get them to understand really what they're supposed to be doing here, right? And what's going to happen if they resist. All right, so that's what they did, and it was for that they would be convinced to support the cause of liberty, which has been the whole cause all along for Moroni and the Nephites. Right, so upon doing that in 18, it says that they went up against them, and then, of course they had a much larger army, so they were successful. That they killed 4,000 of them by the sword, right? And then the leaders were taken and cast into prison, and so they settled it. Right, this is it. And so upon seeing that, as you would assume, that those who were left living says, yeah, we think we're ready to join the army now, right? We're ready to fight for the country now and to defend the cause of liberty, right? And so as it says in 20, it says they yielded to the standard of liberty, and they were compelled to hoist the title of liberty upon their towers. That was the standard throughout the land, was the title of liberty. So I'm assuming that those who were now called the kingmen, because they were being ornery, they didn't want that anymore, but now that those who were left living and that they were going to continue to be among the living, they had to put the title of liberty on their houses and buildings also, to show that we're all together. So it took a little bit of force, but those who were left, they were convinced now.
And thus Moroni put an end to those kingmen, that there were not any known by the appellation of kingmen. And thus he put an end to the stubbornness and the pride of those people who professed the blood of nobility, but they were brought down to humble themselves like unto their brethren, and to fight valiantly for their freedom from bondage. Behold, it came to pass that while Moroni was thus breaking down the wars and contentions among his own people, and subjecting them to peace and civilization, and making regulations to prepare for war against the Lamanites, behold, the Lamanites had come into the land of Moroni, which was in the borders by the seashore. And it came to pass that the Nephites were not sufficiently strong in the city of Moroni. Therefore Amalickiah did drive them, slaying many. And it came to pass that Amalickiah took possession of the city, gave possession of all their fortifications.
Having had this little battle with the kingmen, as it says in 21, it says now Moroni had put an end to that whole concept of the kingmen. So perhaps if that hadn't happened, perhaps that would have gone on for years. Kingmen, freemen, and so forth. Right? Because some people never give up their cause, right? But due to this battle here, so now they killed pretty much all the ones who were feeling that way, and the rest were compelled to join in with them. So that's why he said he put an end to the free men, so there was not anybody known by the appellation or the name of king men anymore, right? So we're not going to be messing around with king men anymore. That's done, right? Now we're all just all together again as the Nephite people, right? Which was a good thing. Okay, so now it says in 22, it says while they're messing around with all this and having to fight amongst themselves, now the real enemy is coming. Okay, the real enemy is coming and attacking while they're infighting amongst themselves. The real enemy is coming to attack. All right, as it says in 22, and as a result of all this in 23, it says I believe based on the way it's written, they were not as well prepared as they might have been otherwise, the Nephites, because they were too busy fighting amongst themselves. So that's why it says Amalickiah was able to come in and take possession of the city of Moroni, right? Because they were not strong enough to defend that city at that particular time. Now, if you remember, I think it was just in the last chapter or two that it talked about how well prepared all these cities were when the Lamanites had previously attacked, and they came and there was like ditches dug all around, and there was high posts and everything that they were able to go up real high and throw stones down at them, and they couldn't get anywhere, right? So they were real protected and real prepared the other time, but now because they were fighting amongst themselves, they were not as well prepared. So as you can see, the result was different now. It says that Amalickiah was able to take over the city of Moroni, and says possession of all their fortifications, over with the word that's short for fortification is forts, okay, as we would refer to them in the stories of the Old West with the forts, all right, so this leads to possession of their forts, and now they have the city and everything that had been built into the city.
And those who fled out of the city of Moroni came to the city of Nephihah, and also the people of the city of Lehi gathered themselves together and made preparations and were ready to receive the Lamanites to battle. But it came to pass that Amalickiah would not suffer the Lamanites to go against the city of Nephihah to battle, but kept them down by the seashore, leaving men in every city to maintain and defend it. And thus he went on, taking possession of many cities, the city of Nephihah, and the city of Lehi, and the city of Morianton, and the city of Omner, and the city of Gid, and the city of Mulek, all of which were on the east borders by the seashore. And thus had the Lamanites obtained, by the cunning of Amalickiah, so many cities, by their numberless hosts, all of which were strongly fortified against the manner of the fortifications of Moroni, all of which afforded strongholds for the Lamanites.
It tells them kind of their continuing march through the different cities here. Right? It says those who fled out of the city of Moroni went to the city of Nephihah, right? And then they were preparing for battle, but yet it says that Amalickiah brought the Lamanites against all those different cities, and it lists in 26 all the different cities that they took over, right? Nephihah, Lehi, Morianton, Omner, and so forth, right? All the different cities that they took over, and so these were all Nephite cities, right? And as it says in 27, it's, as we had read the other time, how well prepared these cities were and how they had lots of forts built, lots of protection built in. Well, now that the Lamanites took over the cities, they owned all that too, right? So probably all the preparation that Moroni had built into those cities now was being used against them because the enemy took it over, and now the enemy had all the forts and everything that were built in those cities. So when you let your well-prepared things slip away, well, then it can be used against you, and so that's really what happened here. That they were able now to defend the cities themselves against the Nephites with all the same forts that the Nephites had built. So imagine that, they built all this stuff and it was now being used against them, and they couldn't take back the cities right away.
And it came to pass that they marched to the borders of the land bountiful, driving the Nephites before them and slaying many. But it came to pass that they were met by Teancum, who had slain Morianton and had headed his people in his flight. And it came to pass that he headed Amalickiah also, as he was marching forth with his numerous army, that he might take possession of the land bountiful, and also the land northward. But behold, he met with a disappointment by being repulsed by Teancum and his men, for they were great warriors. For every man of Teancum did exceed the Lamanites in their strength and in their skill of war, insomuch that they did gain advantage over the Lamanites. And it came to pass that they did harass them, insomuch that they did slay them even until it was dark. And it came to pass that Teancum and his men did pitch their tents in the borders of the land bountiful, and Amalickiah did pitch his tents in the borders on the beach by the seashore, and after this manner were they driven.
The Nephites brought in one of their stars now, right? That they were getting beat in this particular war. So, but now it's Teancum and his men, who were, I guess, one of the better armies in the whole army of the Nephites, was put into play now. Right, and it mentions how Teancum was the one who killed Morianton in the previous chapter, right? And so he's a skilled warrior, and it says his men were also skilled warriors, right? So it says that after the Lamanites had taken a lot of the land, they were on their way to the land bountiful, right? Which we've only put up here at the top, see the land bountiful, right? So they're kind of taking all the cities, and now they're headed for the land bountiful. So knowing that, it says Teancum and his men that they went to head them off, right? They went to maybe took a different path or overtook them, right? That they might battle with them before they would get to the land bountiful. Right, so that's why it says in 30, it says he headed off Amalickiah also, as he was marching forth, they might take possession of the land bountiful. So upon getting there, now that they had a kind of a head-to-head battle out in the open, and in verse 31 it mentions that Teancum, his army was great warriors. It says every man exceeded the Lamanites in their strength and their skill of war. So he had the better fighters, right? Maybe the bigger, stronger, more prepared men, and so basically there was no contest at that point, right? There was no forts in the way or no protection, but they were able to just fight one-on-one, and they were able to defeat them and kill many of them in this particular battle. Right? As it says in 32, they did slay them even till it was dark, right? So they spent the whole day killing some of the Lamanites, and then at the end of the day, I guess the two went into their separate camps to rest up for tomorrow to continue this battle.
And it came to pass that when the night had come, Teancum and his servants stole forth, and went out by night, and went into the camp of Amalickiah. And behold, sleep had overpowered them because of their much fatigue, which was caused by the labors and heat of the day. And it came to pass that Teancum stole privily into the tent of the king, and put a javelin to his heart, and he did cause the death of the king immediately, that he did not awake his servants. And he returned again privily to his own camp, and behold, his men were asleep, and he awoke them, and told them all the things that he had done. And he caused that his armies should stand in readiness, lest the Lamanites had awakened and should come upon them. And thus ended the 25th year of the reign of the judges over the people of Nephi, and thus endeth the days of Amalickiah.
Yeah, this is what I would expect to happen, right? Like we were just saying a minute ago about how, all right, let's just knock off for the day, and we'll sleep on it and come back tomorrow, right? So, well, while the one side's sleeping, the other side is not sleeping. So it says that the Teancum and his servant, they sneak over to the Lamanite camp, everybody's sleeping. Well, now we have access to everybody, right? It's not like they're sleeping in tents or something, so it's not like they're heavily locked or there's security or anything. They just went, everybody's sleeping. So it says they went into the camp of the king, they went into the tent, and they killed him, right? So they went to the tent of the king in 34. It says put a javelin to his heart and did cause the death of the king immediately. So they went and killed the king. So now we killed their leader, so we effectively have beaten them, because when they wake up and find the king is dead, they're going to go probably retreat, right? So it's just that easy. So like I said, we were kind of saying about how they know to knock off for the night. Well, apparently they knew that they slept, but they didn't, and so they were able to come and kill the king even at night while they were sleeping, right? So once that happened, so they even did it quietly, so nobody else woke up. So they went in to kill the king, and they went back to their camp, and so now the Lamanites going to have a surprise, but then wake up in the morning and find that their king has been killed, right? And so as it's 37, this is ending the 25th year, right? And it also ends the days of Amalickiah, because this is a story we've been reading about a while with him, right? Since at least chapter 46, I think. So this has been like 6 chapters of things involving him. So this is where how his life ended, which is a suitable way, right? In the battlefield, trying to
deserts.
Right, exactly. The justice has served here, okay? He's was trying to take over the Nephite people, and so the Nephites killed him instead.